Welcome to the Page Turnerz podcast, where book lovers unite to celebrate the enchanting world of fiction. With your host, Paul A. Brooks. In each episode, we'll dive into the captivating realms of storytelling, exploring the pages that transport us to magical places and introduce us to unforgettable characters. In each episode, we'll embark on a creative expedition through the minds of seasoned and emerging writers to unravel the mysteries and unveil the passion that fuels their stories. Join us on this odyssey through the pages and pixels of imagination, where words become worlds and stories illuminate our lives. So, pour yourself a coffee and immerse yourself in discussions about writing, gripping plots, heroes and villains, and the sheer joy of escaping into a well-crafted story.
On today's podcast, I'm talking to sci-fi author Ericka Evren. Her debut novel, Mission of the Roark, the first in her Archarian series, received 5-star reviews on Amazon and on Goodreads. And the second in her series, Echoes of Destiny, is just as popular. This is the fantastic Ericka Evren. Hi, Ericka, and welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for coming. It's a real pleasure to meet you. I mean, we've been emailing backwards and forwards for some time, trying to sort of make this arrangement, which is great. Now, you're in Alberta, Canada. That's right, isn't it?
That's correct. Alberta, Canada. Yep.
Yeah, that's really good. So, and we sort of said earlier on about this time shift that we have, and I said then that as sci-fi writers, it's okay for a time shift to happen in the books, but changing from Greenwich Mean Time, GMT, to British summertime, that hour forwards has just totally thrown me. I don't know where I am. And of course, in the autumn, we go back again. So
yes, exactly.
it really just throws things right out. So I have read Mission of the Roark. As I said to you before, I read it on vacation. I really enjoyed it. Catrix, the main character, is interesting, and I'll get you to talk about him a little bit later on, as well as all the others. And of course, I've actually got Echoes of Destiny already on my Kindle. It's on here, so it's ready to go. So have you got a book cover? There it is.
There's Echoes.
That's really good.
Mission of the Roark.
They're really nice. You know, I'm gonna ask you about those a little bit later on because I really like those.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah.
So we'll talk about the design aspect of those a little bit later on.
For sure.
So before we actually kind of start talking about your books, you work full time, don't you?
I work full time as a preschool teacher. Yeah, I teach 3- and 4-year-olds. Sometimes there's 2-year-olds. Yeah.
Wow.
So when you talk about time shift, it really changes the kids and their schedules and their moods.
Yeah.
Sometimes they come in super sleepy or super grumpy, and it's just it's a whole thing. So,
So do they know that you've written books?
I try and keep that part of my life separate from my personal life. So Ericka Evren is actually not my real name. Ericka is my real name, but Evren is a pen name. So.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. I think that's not a bad idea. You know, I mean, for me, I write full time, so I just use my full name anyway. So that's right. But that's synonymous. That's an advantage if you can do that. But
for sure.
No, that's great. And it's nice that you work with the little ones as well. I suppose thing. So when you get home, I'm assuming you write as soon as you get home. Aren't you just absolutely shattered from a day of looking after 2- to 4-year-olds?
Oh yeah, and they can be quite a bit. Some days are better than others, depending on the kids, I guess. But I try and come home and kind of like reset. I'll sit down, decompress, have a cup of coffee, and there's like, okay, I have this amount I want to get written. Let's try and do that. And I just do my best every day, and something every day is better than nothing at all. So
yeah, absolutely. So when you're writing, and I think when you were off camera, we said that, and you said you're focused on your work, because I asked you whether or not ideas pop into your head when you've got the kids, and it is good that you're solely focused on
very hands-on.
Absolutely, yeah, I can imagine. So when you get home, do you have a kind of a writing routine to make sure that you get the story down in a reasonable amount of time? So do you have a routine that you work to?
Yes and no. I'm very gracious with myself and also the creative process. When those words come out, I want them to be authentic. I want them to be those characters. I want them to be real. If I'm not feeling it, the reader's not going to feel it. Yeah. So if I'm forcing myself to write and I'm like deviating, I'm looking at my phone or I'm doing such and such, then I know it's not, I don't want to be there. So I'll try and be productive in a different area of my life. But for routine, I kind of, sometimes I do force myself to sit down because sometimes I'm just trying to procrastinate and like, oh, I don't feel like it. It's like, no, just sit down and try. Sometimes we just have to sit down and try.
Yeah.
And then after that, if nothing comes and I'm really just sitting there and not doing anything, I'll remove myself
Yeah.
and do something else, right?
Absolutely. Oh, and almost you got to kind of forgive yourself, haven't you, really? Because
do.
you know, as an author, I'm the same. I'm assuming that you know, I've read and heard so many times that you should sit in front and you should write every day and you should get words down every single. And sometimes you, as you said quite rightly, when you're not feeling it, you can't. And if you force it, that comes out on the page.
Right.
And you can see it,
Yeah.
you know, and I have done that, you know, and I've sat and I've reread what I wrote the previous day, perhaps. And if it has been a day where I thought, you know, I should write today, and I have written some words, I've got to rewrite that whole section usually because it's just awful. You know,
Same.
I don't write horror, but when I force it, it is horrible writing. So,
I like that.
Yeah, so I know, and I think you've got to forgive yourself,
You do.
which is fine. So how long did it take you to write your first book, which because I think you said before, Mission of the Roark isn't your first one, is it?
Well, it's first in the series, but I didn't write it first. So Mission of the Roark was like, I was temporarily laid off work when COVID hit because I was in childcare.
Sure.
And so I just challenged myself, like, okay, let's see if I can write it in 30 days. So I did that. But it started out as a need to begin K-Trick's story. So I did write Echoes of Destiny first. When I was a kid. And then as an adult, I was like, okay, I need to rewrite it, make it something that's unique. And then I realized I didn't have a beginning story for K-Trix. So that's where Mission of Aurora came.
Right. Right. I really love the covers. Can you hold them up again? So
for sure. Yeah. Sorry, I'm being greedy here and working them to
that's right. I'm going to ask you about the covers a little bit later on because they're really nice. I really like the way and it's really easy to understand what the story is about, which is great. Look at that. Okay. Fantastic. Thank you. And Echoes of Destiny, that's that one. Because when they're on the Kindle, it's kind of black and white, and it's it's not the same.
You don't get the nice cover colors and get to hold them, right?
Yeah. No, exactly. So you wrote Mission of the Roark in 30 days, is that right? You wrote that in 30 days?
Yeah, the first rough draft, it was 30 days, And then after that, it took me about 2 years to like finalize, edit, and get it published. So, apologize, my kitty cat's paying attention. I have 2 of those.
No, that's good. So, would you say then, as you wrote it so quickly, are you a plotter or a pantser? Did it just sort of fall out of you onto the page, onto the screen?
So I had an idea of how I wanted K-Trick's story to start for a while. It's kind of been brewing in my head. And then when I started writing it, definitely a pantser. Like I like that idea of not knowing what comes next. And it keeps me into the story and it keeps the readers intrigued in the story. And I listened to music while I wrote it. So maybe that's why it's so fast paced. But definitely like pulling on that thread, as Stephen King says, and just seeing what's on the other end. So definitely a pantser. Sometimes when I have an idea, I'll jot it down. So maybe /architect /plotter, pantser. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're all on that spectrum somewhere, aren't we?
Plotter
and pantser. I mean, I've got notebook. I've got 2 notebooks now. I've got a whiteboard behind me. And
all the time.
Yeah, and I write lots of notes like you, but very few of them actually make it into the story. But
100%. It's like a what if.
Yeah, exactly. So so I've written a lot, but it's like, well, that doesn't quite fit. And then of course, as a pantser, you're writing, and then this idea will pop into your mind. All of a sudden, you go off on a bit of a tangent, and the story comes back round in a different way, which is a really nice thing to do. So okay. So you're kind of, I would say, more pantser end than plotter end.
For sure. If I get stuck, like if I'm pantsing and I get stuck, then I'll go and write a bunch of notes. Okay, what can happen next? And then I kind of sift through those and see what's gonna fit. And then let's go with this direction. And then
Oh, what a good idea. I hadn't thought about doing that. Well, yeah, that's a good idea. So you kind of bullet point where it may go, perhaps, and then
kind of like what I want to have happen, and then what's really important for the scene, and then see if that happens. And another way too, if I get stuck, is I do an inside outline. So it's kind of like you take your chapter, break it down, and like okay, this is happening for this reason. And because of that, now then the next chapter, this is happening because of what happened in the previous chapter. So it kind of
Yeah.
really breaks it down, and it really helps me focus on the direction of the story that I want. And yeah, so different things that you pick up. I think every writer's got a different writing schedule, or like a ways to get their creative ideas out. Like I definitely float around all of those, like plant. Oh, wow, I can't even talk. Cancer and plotter.
Yeah.
Plotter and planter.
I think that's a great idea. I spoke to Kayla DeMar a couple of 3 months back now on the podcast, and when you were talking about getting stuck, she
Yeah.
uses AI. So
Oh,
she'll type
wow.
in, "Can you give me an idea?" and it comes up with a list of different ideas. So hers is a kind of more sort of computer generated, as opposed to you writing it down.
Right.
And I'm the same. I write it down, and I've
Mm-hmm.
yet to try using something like ChatGPT or
Same.
Perplexity or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Because I don't know about you, but with AI, I'm a little bit wary of it.
Same.
Probably only because I don't know enough about it, and it's probably completely irrational.
I want
Um,
to be authentic.
well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And that's you're not the first person who said that you want to be authentic as a writer,
Yeah.
and I'm exactly the same. And I was fascinated because Keela is Italian, so English isn't her first language. So
Oh,
ChatGPT and that kind of stuff sort of helped her as well,
that's good.
and particularly to get ideas. That's other than write them down, which like you, I do. It might be a good idea to try that AI thing
Yeah.
and see.
Yeah. I know
Is
my sister, she tries writing too, and she's working on her novel, and she said she got stuck and she plugged in a little bit and it spit out some stuff. You still have to like take it and write it and make it work, because it's
Yeah.
just, it's not perfect, but it's for sure ideas. Like, yeah, why not?
I think that's great. And interesting that you say that, because I think Amazon, because I toyed with the idea of using AI to record my book on audio, but of course they won't allow that. They don't allow it.
Mm.
And equally, medium.com, have you heard of medium.com?
Mm-mm.
It's kind of it's a writer's platform. It's a bit like Wattpad and Royal Road and places like that, where people write and
Okay.
then and people pay to read
Share
it.
ideas and stuff. Okay.
Yeah, but medium.com, they have there was this big worry about AI because it's very easy. If you go into ChatGPT and you type in, "Write me, 1,000 words on, I don't know, garden furniture," it can spit out an entire 1,000-word article in about 20 seconds. And when people just upload it and paste it, and of course
Mm.
they've done no research, they know nothing about it. As you say,
Mm-hmm.
it's not authentic.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Medium have come out and said, "Look, no, we're not going to allow that," because they can check it and they can tell whether or not it's AI written. Um,
Right.
so that's good for us
Yes.
to
Yeah. And I
keep things
think,
authentic.
yeah. And I think Amazon now too, they require that you check off a box if you have used AI to help you write the story.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that does to algorithms, if you do check it or not, but it
Mm.
doesn't apply to pro writing aid, because I know that is a form of AI where it helps you, like, that's a grammar checker basically, but
Yeah.
I don't think it counts as using AI to generate content. It's just checking your grammar and stuff. So
Yeah.
that's a bonus for me.
Yeah. For me too, because I use it, Pro Writing Aid. I've got
I
it.
love it.
Yeah, I do. And I kind of use it in conjunction with Grammarly, actually. The
Okay.
Pro Writing Aid I paid for, so that's a paid software.
Yeah.
But I use the free version of Grammarly, and it gets a little bit frustrating when all of a sudden red lines appear all over the screen.
Yeah. Why?
Yeah, what is that all about? But so I use that, and that's interesting. So when you write, what software do you use to write your manuscript on?
So I use Word.
Okay.
Yeah, it's now, I think now you have to have a subscription, or you can pay for it. But I use Word, and then I do all of my, like, the most edits that I can possibly do on Word. And
Yeah.
then I use a platform called Atticus.
Uh-huh.
And that does
Me
all
too.
my formatting. Yeah, I love Atticus.
Yeah.
I always, like, I don't get paid, but I'm always telling everybody, like, it's so good.
It
But
is.
yeah, I use Atticus to format all of my chapters and stuff.
Mhm.
And then yeah, it's nice because it does the EPUB, it does the PDF, like, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I do exactly that. I actually write in Google Docs, so I've got
okay.
the main manuscript is on Google Docs. I'm a little bit
Mhm.
wary of it, so I tend to have a lot of saved PDFs all over my desktop because I'm a little bit
Yeah.
paranoid about losing it. And
So,
then, as I said, I use Grammarly and Pro Writing Aid as well. Again, just to
yeah.
check your grammar,
Hmm.
spelling, and all that sort of stuff, and styling as well, which is really good for
Yes.
that. So I use that.
Hmm.
And then Atticus, like you as well. Wow, are you sure you're not sitting in here? We're using the same.
Right?
Yeah.
Um, Concerning your Google Docs there, I found a little workaround where on my iPad is where I typically write because I don't have a laptop.
Okay.
So I open Word, no, I open Dropbox. So every time I open Dropbox, then I can edit into Word. And then when I close Word, it saves to Dropbox. So there's always that saved file on the web in Dropbox. It's
Wow.
like it's another way to keep it safe, but I still always back up as much as possible because heaven forbid you lose all of that work, right? Like,
I
oh,
know. It has happened to me. Fortunately, not a
oh
great deal,
no.
but it was a lesson learned. So
Mm,
I don't know about you, but for me, what I tend to do is if I've done a writing session, for example, so tomorrow, for example, I shall start. But then so on Tuesday, I will edit over what I've written on Monday, so I kind of rotate back. Do you do something similar?
yeah, kind of like I'll go back over what I've previously written and kind of edit and tweak it, and then I kind of get into the groove again, and then I
Yeah.
keep writing. Yeah, just gonna
Yeah.
take a drink.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So, some people, again, Nick Snape does this, which I thought was a really great tip, is he writes a sentence at the end of a paragraph or at the end of his session that kind of is the lead in for his next session. So he kind of picks up where he left off. And I think that's a great way of doing it because you
I'm
immediately
totally
into the flow again. Because I don't know about you, but I've often sat and sort of pondered for 20, 30 minutes and not written a single word trying to get back to where I was before.
right.
So
I
that I
kind
think
of do
that's,
that too, like little annotations of I put in little asterisks, like okay, and then after this, Kajik, la 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 la, and then and
yeah,
then I
yeah,
close it and save it, and then I come back, say, oh yeah, and then I can kind of pick up. But
yeah,
yeah, it's a good idea.
yeah. I think it really is. Do you have you any parts of your books that you've written that you've really struggled to write? And I have a reason
Mm.
for asking that, which I'll come to in a moment. But was there any part of the book where, um, as you were about to publish it, you thought, "Oh, that was hard to write"?
Mm. When I first started writing, like it was definitely this space battle scenes. It's like, how am I going to describe how the ships? Because I see it in my head like a movie. So it's like,
Yeah,
how do I like, oh, the ships are turning over each other and they're fighting, and like, how do I do that? I did struggle a little bit with characters and just kind of how they interacted. Some of it felt a little bit rough for me, and then also for Mrs. Rourke, I specifically struggled with um, just his need to go back and touch base. Like it was a little repetitive in the middle where he had to go back and touch base
yeah,
with um the head plant. They're like, but of course, like the ship was damaged. So I was like, well, he's got to go back and get repaired because it doesn't make sense if he's still flying around and so that part I struggled with. And I've often thought about going back and rewriting it. It's like, but I don't know how I could rewrite it better. So, or different. But
I
I
thought the
definitely,
same. Yeah, I thought the
yeah.
same actually. So, you kind of, essentially, you go back over then and look for holes in your plot and things like that you kind of plug in.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I did let it rest a little bit before I started reading it again. And then just at the time, I couldn't see any other way of kind of getting out of that
mm,
back and forth repetitive, which
mm,
it's been pointed out to me a couple times. But
yeah.
then I've had readers just like totally disregarded, like, yeah, loved it. Like, when's the next one? And then read the next one and like, okay, when's the third? Like, oh, I haven't started it yet. Like,
Yeah,
it's taken me all
absolutely.
my life.
Yeah, leave me
So
alone for a while. Yeah.
exactly. So
Now the reason I ask is because for the last sort of 3 or 4 days, I've been trying to write the back blurb on the back cover. There you go. There it is. Yeah, I knew it. I knew it. Gee, God, when you've written yours,
yes.
have you kind of worked to a formula, or have you kind of got an idea of
Mhm.
what you want to get out? How did you do that? Because that it's not a struggle. Struggle's perhaps not the right word. I know what it needs to say,
Well, it's hard to write a big book, but now you're trying to ask us to write it into 150 words or 200
Yeah.
without giving spoilers, but to keep people intrigued.
Yeah.
I do have a resource here. Let me see if I can find the book. It's awesome. Here it is. So I stumbled across this in oh, my camera's gonna this Authors Unleashed, but he talks about writing blurbs and stuff. This is by Robert Ryan.
Yeah. Just writing it down.
And then he also has a Facebook group too, where where you can post like your workup blurb, and then it's a bunch of authors and himself, and they'll kind of go through, read it, and critique it. And like, this could be punchier, this could do this, less paragraphs here. They don't write it for you. Some do rewrite it, but they really encourage you to like, okay, this is where you need to tighten it up, or maybe this and this, or they'll ask questions like, I didn't quite understand, or all this stuff. And I found it very helpful. So for sure, that's where I've gone with every time I've written a blurb. I've gone there, and I've always come out with good results. So before I go there though, it's really hard to kind of like make it intriguing. And I always have that, those announcer voices in your head, and la 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 la.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I've written it like that, and then I've gone away and come back and read it, and I thought, I have no idea what that's saying. That's actually, it makes no sense whatsoever. But to me, of course, the announcer voice it's that punchy intrigue that the announcer that has the 10 rounds of world championship boxing kind of voice that goes off in my head when I'm trying to, and I think it kind of works. But I think
sometimes
I'm not sure that it's quite enough for when someone picks the book up to go to read past that first sentence. So I've got that guy's Robert Ryan. I got the note down there. Thank you for that. So I'll have a look. He's
awesome.
That.
Yeah.
And then kind of see how we go from there. I mean, essentially, it's got to have a hook, isn't it? So it's got to be the thing that people sort of pick up on and go, oh, okay, I want to know more, and then pull them down to the next sentence. It's almost like, I mean, a previous incarnation before I started writing full time, I worked online and wrote sales letters and sales copy and emails.
There you go. Oh, you've got it made. You're set to go.
Oh, I wish. Yeah. Yeah. And so when you're writing emails, you're trying to get them to slide down the page. And it's the same sort of idea with writing a blurb. Blurb has got to be kind of a golden thread through it so people can follow it.
Exactly.
And then I think with a
he talks about that too, like having a hook, and then at the end of each paragraph is another like tidbit that makes them want to read the next paragraph. And then he suggests like 200 to 150 words max, and then
because I mean, I read them. I don't know about you, as readers as well. I always read the blurb, always, and it is always this. I wouldn't say it was the entire reason that I would buy the book, but it holds a big sway on as to whether or not I actually press that buy button or not. So it's important. It's important to get it right, and I spend a lot of time on it. I think that's what, but I'm going to use that resource and see if I can speed it up a little bit, because I've actually got it on this screen. I'm not even going to show you. I've got it on this screen here, because I look across and go, oh, I don't like that. But
it's funny because it's so much easier for authors to help others write their blurbs, but it's so hard for us to write our own. Like it's so easy to give advice, but to like, but if you want help, I can take a look at it for you and give you some ideas if you want by email or whatever. I don't mind.
Excellent. Absolutely. I'll take you up on that for sure.
Okay.
I've got something already written. It's about 130 words. So
that's good.
A little bit, but it's kind of in the ballpark of where it needs to be. That's great. Thank you very much. I will send it to you later on.
Okay, for sure.
It's just a bit more work for you to do.
That's okay.
So as a writer and as readers, what are you reading at the moment? Are you reading do you stick within the sci-fi genre, or do you read lots of other genres as well?
I just bought my first fantasy book in a while yesterday. I think it's another indie author. It's called Ascendant, but I bought it just because it's a dragon on the front. So I was like, this looks good, I'm gonna buy it. It was on for 99 cents. So but typically I try and stay within sci-fi, just because that's the genre I'm trying to cultivate in myself and like grow in. And I've always been drawn to it. I've always been interested in it, thanks to my dad. So I finished All Red Rising. But like I said earlier, like I can't read and also write. Like I have to pick one. So my cat. But it also just takes away from yeah, what I'm doing. But right now I've started a couple, but I'm still stuck in that writing phase. So I'm trying to like read, but it's also like I have to write. So there's a couple authors I've started. Brian Wilson, he wrote The Forsaken Planet, another indie author. I started reading, sorry, Rack by TK Topping, I think her name is.
Okay.
And that's it's interesting because it's from the aliens perspective when you first start the book.
Oh,
So I was
wow.
like, ooh, yeah. So it was really interesting to see how
Yeah.
the aliens were describing the humans on their planet. So that was cool. But yeah, I tend to stick in the sci-fi genre when I'm reading. So yeah.
So as a writer, I don't know about you, because I do this, and it's perhaps not necessarily a good thing. If I'm reading and I'm watching a film or something like this, as a writer, you can almost tell what's going to come next.
Yes.
Do you find that?
Mm-hmm.
Do
And my husband gets so annoyed at me.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you think that it's kind of annoying, isn't it? Because you know what's happening,
Yeah.
you can see what's being
Yeah.
foreshadowed further on or
Yes.
earlier on, and you know it's
Yeah.
going to appear a little bit later on. And I've
Yeah. And for me too, it's the camera angles and it's like what they're focusing on, it's like,
Yep.
okay, watch, this person's gonna get pushed in the river in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And he's like, stop it.
Yeah, yeah, I know exactly. Well, that's, I mean, because I like you, I've tried to sort of stick within the sort of sci-fi genre, certainly for reading, because I love it. It's just,
Mm-hmm.
really enjoy it. Ever since I was, little, I've really sort of enjoyed sci-fi, and I've always sort of had the dreams of, daydream about the what ifs and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
which is great. But recently, I have started to read horror. Um,
Oh, okay.
so I've started to read those. Do you know what? I didn't own and have never read a Stephen King book until
Ooh.
this, and I mentioned it to one of my daughters, my middle daughter, and she bought me a couple for Christmas. So they're on the shelf behind me.
Oh,
So
yes.
I've got to read it, and I can't remember can't remember what the other one is.
What have
Anyway,
you
so
heard of?
I've got a couple behind me that she got. So I'm
Yeah.
going to have a look at those, because I want to sort of not just necessarily for the story, but Stephen King is, everyone knows who Stephen King
Oh,
is, and I kind of
yeah.
want to sort of back engineer his writing, if you like.
Yeah. Have you read his memoir?
Yeah, just
Yeah, it's
just
good, right?
yeah, um,
Mm-hmm.
just so I can try and sort of understand, I suppose, why he's so popular.
Mm-hmm.
What makes his writing stand out from everybody else? Um,
Yeah.
and not that I want to mimic that, but I want to
No.
understand it, so that there
Mm-hmm.
always be elements that you can put in your books yourself. Because
Yes.
as writers, we're always learning. We never,
Mm-hmm.
people say that there is a book in everyone, um, and maybe there is, but very few of us actually write them because
That's right.
it's not as easy as it seems, is it?
No, it's a lot of dedication. It's a lot of taking time from like your social activity or other hobbies. Like I do painting and sculpting as well, but I haven't touched those since I've started writing because it's a everyday thing.
Yeah.
And you kind of want to stay in the character's mindset and in the groove of the story and your direction, right?
Mm.
And back to Stephen King, like the thing that I like about him in his memoir, he mentioned like less is more. So you can tell the reader that there's a room with a table with a red tablecloth, but in their mind, maybe they'll add fringes to it or gold lacing. Like as readers, we always fill in those blanks too.
Yeah.
So in my writing, I don't know if you've noticed, but I've been not complimented. I guess I've been told that my writing is very succinct, where it gets to the point and it's just enough details and it keeps going, going, going. And I'm not sure if it should be more flowery. I've never been that person. I'm always just like, as it comes to me, write it and like make it make sense and enough detail for the reader. But yeah, so I guess we'll see in Echoes of Destiny when you read it if it's better than the first one.
Yeah, well, I think you're right about sort of giving the reader just enough to stimulate their imagination, because they do fill in the blanks, don't they? As you said,
Mhm.
they do kind of add in those extra bits. And I think if you've been and had reviews and complimented on what you've done, then don't change it, stick it.
True.
That's good. So we ought
Mhm.
to talk about your books.
Oh, okay.
To talk about your books, because I mean, as I said to you, I have read Mission of the Roark. I really enjoyed Catrix. He is as a character, I found that to me, it feels like he was struggling to fit in. He
Mhm.
was struggling to make his mark, really, if you like, almost as if he's sort of like a little bit of imposter syndrome going on. Did you, I'll get you to talk about the story in a moment without giving too much away, but
Yeah.
talking about Catrix, Catrix, is that his full name?
Torrex.
Torrex, that's it. Thank you.
Torrex, yeah.
Yeah. Did you write him particularly like that, to have that um that feeling?
Vulnerability.
Yeah, yes, exactly. That vulnerability. Yeah.
Yeah. So I really wanted readers to connect with Catrix in that sense because he
Yeah.
is an alien on a different planet in a different galaxy. So I was like, how can I make him still human or approachable or relatable to people nowadays? And I
Mm,
think the hardest thing that we struggle with as humans is feeling that we belong, feeling that we're a part of something, and we're always trying to make our mark, or you're like, do the best and do our best and fit in and those sorts of things. So yeah, I wanted that for Catrix very much so, but I also wanted him to also, he's that little boy inside of us that we all have, that child that's like dream big and shoot for the stars. And
yeah.
unfortunately, when he gets that opportunity, it's not always the best and it doesn't lead to the best results, but we still have lots to discover in the next couple of books that I write when I get to them. So
It was really interesting, his thoughts on when he kind of achieved what he'd sort of almost set out to do, but
yeah.
the way that he got it, he felt almost dissatisfied with it. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so that's really interesting that it's written like that. So can you give us a bit more of an overview of the story, the Archarian series? Is it Archarian series?
It's Archarian. Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, that's good. Wow, pronunciation's getting better of these weird
I
alien
know.
words, but yeah, that's good. Yeah, could you give
So
us a little bit of an overview of the story?
sure. So, in the beginning, for Mission of the Roark, it started out as a beginning story for Catrix, and I really didn't think too much past that. And then Echoes of Destiny, we obviously pick up again with Catrix, and the overall arc. I don't know. These are the questions that I struggle with
Oh,
because
that's
as
right.
a plotter or pantser rather, I really I don't know until I pull that string through the hole, right? So,
I know. Yeah, yeah,
but it's a good question because for the third book, I know we haven't really talked about the second yet, but so the second one it's a darker theme for sure. It's
right.
literally Catrix going through hell. The third book is more relatable in the sense that I think you're the first hearing this actually. Um, it's it's kind of like Mission of the Roark's coming back to bite him in the butt. All the
Right.
decisions that he made in that one,
Okay.
whether or not he's responsible for those, like he was following orders, it's coming back to haunt him basically, and
Mm,
it's going to um it's going to challenge his friendships that he's built in Echoes of Destiny. It's going to challenge his ideas for the future, and it's going to challenge his beliefs or who he was as Catrix in Mission of the Roark. Yeah, so that's kind
I
of
can imagine that actually. Yeah, yeah.
because I don't know if have you started reading Echoes of Destiny yet?
Not yet. No, no, I haven't. So don't
Yeah,
spoil it for me. But I can't
I won't.
spoil
I won't. I will mention that there's just a bit of a time gap because I found it necessary in order for the setting of Echoes of Destiny to really have a full effect on him as a character. Some time had to pass.
Yeah.
So some readers found that a little jarring, but as a writer, like it's always important for us to stay true to our vision. And some will understand and some won't, but that's okay. Hopefully, in the overall, when they read all the books, they understand why that gap was necessary. But yeah, that's all I'll say.
Yeah, okay. Well, I was going to say that it kind of makes sense that there's a time gap, though, based on what happens to Catrix at the end of
Yes.
Mission of the Roark. There has to be a
Mm-hmm.
time gap.
Mm-hmm.
So, that makes complete sense to me. I kind of was sort of expecting it, actually, going back
Okay.
to going back to reading it and being a writer, kind of guessing what's going to happen next.
Foreshadow.
exactly. I kind of had that idea of that's what was going to happen. So I was kind of expecting that.
Okay.
So I'm happy with that. That's absolutely fine. So I'm really looking forward to starting it. I should be
Yay.
starting in the next couple of days. So that'll be really good.
Awesome.
Um, so you mentioned you're writing a third one. Is that right?
Yes, I
And
will be
do you
starting. Yeah.
sorry, say that again.
Oh, I'll be starting writing it soon. I'm still kind of,
Okay.
the ideas and thoughts are still simmering. I have like 20 pages of notes because I've had Echoes of Destiny done for a while. And so I think since 2021,
Wow.
but I've just published it here 2024.
Mhm.
So since I wrote the end on that book, I've had ideas of, okay, the direction of where I want Catrix to go in the next story. But yes, I really want to get it written this year, but I'm writing a side project in the same galaxy for a character that I really adore. Her name is Alicia. So you'll meet her in Echoes of Destiny. And it's funny because I started writing this as like, okay, it'll be a magnet. It's just going to be a tiny little book to get people to like want like to try my writing and to join my newsletter or whatever.
Yeah.
It never happens. It always turns into a full-fledged novel. Like that was what Mission of Rourke was supposed to be. It was supposed to be this tiny little thing. And I mean, it's still quite tiny, but no, it blew up. So, but yeah, I'm working on that side project and then I'm starting writing book 3.
Okay. Do you have a working title for it?
I had a poll, but it was like, I had a poll of like titles that I had. So one was Out of Darkness, one was Fractured Stars, and one was Fall of Legends.
Oh.
And all the poll ended up like everything was equal. There was no like I couldn't pick a title because none of them was surpassing the other one. So I went with Fall of Legends, but I might change it. So we'll see.
Well, yeah, I think we do. I mean, I have done the same for my second. It's nothing like what I had in my mind when I first started it. It's interesting. We were talking about the blurb earlier on. The story has actually changed slightly because the blurb has given me a slight angle that I might want to explore a little bit more, which I think it will actually, which is quite interesting, because it will lead into the next book, into the next story as well. It's that that passing shot that you leave people with at the end of the blurb, just think, oh, okay. So there's kind of that. Anyway, you'll read it when I send it to you, but
yes, I'm really excited.
So it's kind of, and that sort of come to me in the last couple of days. So it's really interesting that how the blurb has changed the story. But often people will write the blurb whilst they're writing the story. So it makes it easier, and whether or not they change the story because of an idea, I don't know, but that's just something that I've experienced over the last few days, which is new to me, which I thought, okay, that's fun. Okay, so with a working title that you've got, have you got an idea of when you want to put that out? You say you're going to write it over the course of this year or so?
Oh boy, I'm gonna say it's gonna be like 2025, maybe.
No, that's all right.
I've been like the last couple of books I was like I would only write when I wanted to, but I want to be more diligent and more like I want to sit down and at least get 1,000 words if possible, like we talked about before, like not forcing myself, but at least make the effort. And then if I have to move on, or if my creative well is empty, then I'll go watch a video or like I'll go read or something. So
yeah,
but definitely within the next couple of years, because I've got hungry readers now, which is exciting.
Yeah, it is. That's the thing, isn't it? It's when your readers are saying, look, I want more, then you're onto something that is really satisfying for you as a writer, which is great. And I think it does do that, which is kind of why I asked earlier on, if while you're working, if ideas pop into your head. And as you said, it's good that it doesn't, because you've got the little ones to look after. But I mean, I know writers that carry notebooks around, or have a talking to their phone to record something to get it down. I've tried that. I can't do that, but I have a notebook which I do carry around with me, just to write it, sort of a little bit old school in that respect. I like to write it down.
No, I like it. That I do the same thing too.
But I think now you've got some sort of success with and building up your readership, they are going to want more, and it kind of it makes the writing process more enjoyable. I think your
It
story
does.
becomes more has more of a flow to it because you're now
Hmm.
more immersed in your own world. I think that
Yeah,
you're
and now there's
and
an audience hungry for it too. So now
yeah,
you can write for your readers, which is a really rewarding thing. Like when you start
yeah,
with the first one, it's like it's just you and like maybe your significant other or maybe a friend or a sister, right? But
yeah.
yeah, it's really cool. And
That that's amazing, and it's good that you talk about writing for your readers. You know, we often hear that as writers, but it's hard to do that and understand what that really means unless you've got an audience of readers to
mhm,
sort of get that from. And you obviously have because you've got beta readers and ARC readers as well. Is that right?
yeah,
As
so
well.
I've the first book I had a couple ARC readers, but the second book I made sure I had a beta reader first before I did any edits. And he gave me some really good pointers. So I highly recommend like alpha readers, beta readers, and then like an editor, obviously, after you do pro writing age, like do as many self edits as you can.
Yeah.
And then yeah, your ARC readers, they're the last little slice of cake on the top that's perfect. And yeah. Um I do have a team. Whether or not they always are available to do those things, though, it's totally up to them. I just throw it out there, and I've actually had like since posting to Instagram or whatever, I've had people approach me like, "Hey, do you need better readers? Do you need this or that?" And then I'll kind of do like a screen, like, have you read sci-fi before? Who's your favorite author? Because I think if they don't understand the genre and they don't understand the tropes and they don't understand what it's about, they're not going to understand the story or appreciate it as much. I did have one lady, she tried my books and I really appreciate her taking the time to read them.
Mm.
But it was her first sci-fi, so it was different for her and maybe didn't know what to expect. And so that was, it's a learning curve, right? For everybody. So they learn what they like. I learn what's good to find in a reader and what's going to benefit me as a writer.
Mm.
So yeah, it's good to have that team though. And they give you back like feedback and encouragement and yeah.
So are you always on the lookout for beta readers and ARC readers then?
Yeah, so I do have a website, ericaevren.com, and I
Mhm.
believe I have a form up there that says if you want to be a beta reader, you can join. And then I
Yeah.
think I also, maybe not ARC reader, I think ARC readers are in my newsletter that comes as a separate offering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's good. I mean, I'll put your website and your social media URLs in the description so people can reach out and make contact with you
Yeah,
anyway.
thank you.
So that'll be good. But that's a great idea as well. On my website, I haven't asked for beta readers or ARC readers, but I'm certainly going to do that
Hmm.
as well now because as you know the trilogy is growing and I need more people to read it and to get, like as you said, because people feedback in a way that you don't expect, or they
Hmm.
see things very differently to how you've written. And you said earlier on that when you're writing, you're playing it in your mind, and I'm just saying I have
Hmm.
this movie going on. But interestingly, when you write, the movie that's in your reader's mind is often quite different to how you see it. Yeah,
They're literally translating the words that you wrote and they're getting that image from what you wrote.
yeah,
Whereas we're seeing the image in our head and we're writing the words.
yeah.
So
So have you found that the feedback that you've had has been radically different to what you thought, or is of where you thought, oh yeah, that could be explained a little bit more, or that could be
mhm,
written a little bit nicer, a little bit more flower,
mhm.
really, if you like. Have you found that
Yeah.
kind of feedback?
Yeah, my first beta reader, because I really didn't have one for Mr. Roar, but for Echoes of Destiny, he read it through and he was an author as well. So
Ah, yeah,
it was really helpful the insight that he gave me, and he would point out like, oh, this needs a little bit more information, and I find this character kind of lacking, and just really, really helpful stuff that I think an editor would have, like a developmental editor would have pointed out. But rather than paying them all the money to say that, you can have beta readers. You can pay them if you want to, but some of them just offer their services for free because
yeah,
they like you and they want to read your stuff. But
yeah, yeah.
yeah, they do. He did give lots of helpful information where this was kind of lacking, or why did this character do this, or this doesn't feel like this character at all, and whatever they would say or do. And I was like, yeah, you're right. I was probably an off day when I was writing. So
Yeah.
I would go back and make those changes. And as a thank you, I sent him the book. So hopefully he sees where his comments have made an improvement in my writing. And yeah, so it's kind of nice. It's, yeah, for sure.
It is really nice when you get that kind of feedback. Really, it allows you to sort of push your story forwards, I suppose. And
Exactly.
you're writing to your audience then as well.
Yes.
It's really good. So let's talk about the covers, the cover design. So that you got of your two books, they're really, did you design them yourself, or did you have a cover designer do them for you?
So this one was a pre-made. A lady in Italy had pre-made it, and she had it up on her website with a different name and title and different font and stuff. But I saw it, and I love blue. Like, blue's my favorite color, and I was like, oh, that's it. Because I was looking at all the other ones, and I don't know, there's like this really cool swirl at the bottom, and like just the planet and how the ship, like the ship we see in lots of other book covers, which is the only sad, unfortunate thing. But I mean, it's the title and the story that sticks with you, right? But so absolutely. She designed it, and I just purchased it from her. She had to design the back for me with that.
There's that blurb.
Yeah, the blurb. So yeah, she designed that one for me, and then actually a different artist did Echoes of Destiny. They're based out of Ukraine. I'm not sure how to pronounce their name, but I always say it Miblart, Miblart.
I think I've seen them on Instagram.
And I think you can get like an ebook and a paperback for like $200 or something.
Okay.
US or no, Canadian. I don't know. 270, I think, Canadian. But yeah, I just showed them my first cover, and I was like, I want it to look like it's a part of a series. So I showed them this one. I was like, it has to be a different ship because spoiler alert, the first one doesn't make it. So they came up with this one, and I was like, that's perfect. It's got different colors to signify that it's a sequel. You know, it's not the same ship.
Yeah.
It still looks great. It still has the blues and the reds. And I tend to make the mistake where I buy the cover first before I write the book.
Wow. Okay.
So I'm not going to do that because you have to give the proper information, like how many pages is it, all the other stuff. And if you don't have a finished manuscript, you can't really give them that information. So learn from that.
I know. I didn't even realize that was going to be a thing, how thick it was going to be. Mine is kind of like, it's
yours is quite thick. Yeah.
So it's like 500 pages.
Mine are babies.
And the next one is almost 600 pages. Yeah. So
wow. I know mine are kind of tiny. But I guess too, that also comes in effect. Like for my third book, I'm really taking the reins off. I've been worried about the cost of an editor, worried about my word count, worried about those things. And I'm just like, you know what, if there's a story to tell, I'm going to tell it rather than suppressing yourself. Like my original Echoes of Destiny draft, it was called something else, but it was 500 pages because I had several POVs. I had several characters that I was following. And I mean, I go into two POVs for Echoes of Destiny, which helped with its thickness, and also just to give K-Trix point of view a break and let readers explore the galaxy through other people. But I feel it really helps with the thickness too, when you have different stories that you're tying all together. And it's kind of enjoyable too, to be writing and like foreshadowing, like, oh, this is what this person's thinking, but this guy doesn't know it, and this is what they're planning. And so book 3 is going to be, I hope, maybe a chunk. I don't know.
Well, no, but that's good because people often say, how long should a book be in a sci-fi genre? How long should a book be in as a thriller or a horror or romance or something like that?
As long as it needs to be.
Yeah, do you know what? That's it. The story is as long as it needs to be to tell the story. So I don't worry too much about page count. As I said, the next one, Book of Nine, mine is going to be well over 600 pages, but it does affect, as you said, when you're having the cover design done, the thickness of it to get the pages in on the spine. And I never even thought that was a thing, but it really is. But those covers are lovely, which is really nice.
Thank you.
So you keep the same sort of idea going through for the series, and you said, and you're quite right that people then can see that it's in the series, which is really nice.
It has several themes that tie it all together, right?
Yeah, exactly. Now you have some merch as well, don't you?
Yeah, I'm waiting on some bookmarks, but I went to the extra effort to get some foil on them.
Right.
So on Mission of the Roar Arc, I had foil put on where the planet is.
Oh, lovely. Okay.
So it'll be a bookmark. It'll kind of look like the cover, but it'll
Mhm.
have that silver foil so that when you angle it, it'll gleam. And
Yeah.
then I also had one for Echoes of Destiny made. So on this one, I believe I have this planet lined up or outlined in this one. And then there's like some stars in there, but I don't have any on me yet. They're still in the process of printing. I just finalized the deal last week.
Yeah.
And I'm working on trying to get some stickers and stuff made, but also just teaching myself that takes away from writing, and it's just a whole nother world, digital art. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know. So are they going to be, are you going to be giving them away with special editions, or how will
Ooh.
people be able to get them?
So I was hoping to put them on my website for those that were interested as a
Mhm.
way for them to buy them if they wanted to. The stickers, I would like to have some signed paperbacks. I recently released hardcovers of Echoes of Destiny and Mission of the Rourke. Unfortunately for Canada, they're not produced here, so I have to wait for them to come from the States.
Right.
But people in the States should be able to order them. My cat's trying to get in the desk, sorry.
That's all right.
And also I'm working on, have you heard of author book plates?
No.
So they're like a label or a piece of paper that people can get you to sign. Like they'll buy them from your website and then they can put them in their own copy. Because not often do we get to meet, say you're in the UK. So if I wanted a signed author copy, I'd either have to buy it from you direct, or I could buy this plate, which is easier to ship, less money. And then I
Right.
could stick it in my own copy of my book of yours, right?
Yeah. What a good
So
idea.
yeah, book plate. So it's just like a little, oh, here, maybe I saw some other authors doing it and I was like, that's a really good idea.
Yeah, I've written that one down too. So that's really good. Yeah, that's nice, because I think it is, if
Yeah.
someone buys the book, it's nice if there is a kind of a private message, a private thank you message or something like, yeah, there you go.
Oh, I don't know if it's gonna show up, but like,
Move it back. There you go. It's it.
so it's just like my signature. I put a little
Yeah.
star in there, and then I
Yeah.
printed them on some labels from like Staples or whatever.
Mhm.
But it says Ericka Evren, and then my slogan is like creating worlds with words. And I
Mhm.
just have my website and then my name down there. Oh,
That's good.
yeah.
Focus.
And then
Yeah.
it's like
What a great idea. Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah.
So I've had a couple of readers be like, oh, that's awesome, because they're in the States. So they're like, I would love that. So I got to figure out, now it's just the website stuff. Get all that on there.
It's a
There's so
never
many hats we
ending.
have to wear.
I know, it's just never ending when you have to do it yourself. Absolutely.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
so where can people buy your books? Are you just Amazon, or are you wide? Where can
So
people?
I'm wide. So you
Okay.
can buy ebooks from Kobo, Amazon, and Barnes and Noble.
Okay.
There she is.
Ah, there she is.
And my paperbacks you can get from Amazon and hopefully eventually from my website. So
Okay.
yeah.
So in the description, I'll put your web address obviously on there as well. So I'm assuming people can go to your website and then they can choose where they want to buy the book from your website. That'd be right. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'll have to double check and make sure my website has those links, but I'm pretty sure Amazon's linked on there. But yeah, if any preferred bookstore, they'll be able to find them. So
that's fantastic. Okay.
Yeah.
Lovely. Well, listen, thank you so much for coming on today.
Yeah, it was nice, Paul. It's been awesome.
Yeah, it's been lovely speaking to you, and really nice to meet you finally.
Yeah.
Emailing.
It was nice.
It's really good. So stay in touch, because it'd be really interesting in you perhaps coming on again once you've got your next book out. Hopefully it'll be before 2025. That'll be
I know.
no pressure, of course, but yeah. But that'll be lovely. And listen, thank you so much for coming on. I will leave in the description links to your website and social media so people can get in contact with you. Maybe apply to be a beta reader or something like that, so you can build up that as well, which would be great. But listen, Ericka, thank you so much for coming on, and hopefully I'll speak to you again soon.
Yeah, me too. It was lots of fun. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on another captivating episode of the Page Turnerz podcast. We hope you enjoyed delving into the pages with us, discovering new stories, and revisiting beloved classics. If you're as passionate about books as we are, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and leave a review. Your feedback keeps us bringing you fascinating discussions, author interviews, and book recommendations. Remember, the adventure never ends when you have a book in hand. Until next time, keep turning those pages and let the magic of storytelling continue to inspire your imagination. Happy reading.